How to speak at SEO conferences. Hello and welcome to the May 2026 edition of the Majestic SEO Panel, discussing how to speak at SEO conferences. I'm your host, David Bain. Now, joining me today, we've got 5 great guests. Let's meet them. Let's find out exactly who they are, starting off with Sophie.
Hi there, I'm Sophie Logan, and I'm the Community and Editorial Manager at Rough Agenda. No one knows who Rough Agenda are, but we're the team behind Brighton SEO, HeroConf, and MeasureFest.
Oh, you sell yourself short there. I'm sure many people do there. But thanks for joining us, Sophie. Also with us today is Gemma.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Gemma Houghton. I'm the Director of Marketing at TransPerfect Digital. Was formerly with WebCertain, and we became part of TransPerfect Digital a few years ago. And we're also the team behind the International Search Summit that's in Barcelona and coming up in New York this year too.
Exciting stuff. Thanks so much, Gemma. Also with us today is Adrijana.
Hello everyone. Well, after all these titles and achievements, I'm just only Adrijana Vujadin, was head of SEO for 5+ years, the SEO industry, and then my journey came to being SEO mindset coach. So that is me in this surrounding. When I was with my friends, with my parents, with my partner, I am different titles, but in this SEO space, I'm this.
Well, it's great to know about the mindset behind what it takes to be a successful SEO speaker. And of course, you've just come from speaking at Brighton SEO as well, and your perspective on being a great speaker, just as similar to, I guess, Katarina's perspective.
Yes.
Hello.
My name is Katarina Dahlin. I'm a senior growth hacker and SEO expert at WhitePress. It's one of the biggest link building marketplaces. And yeah, I also tend to speak whenever I get the chance, and yeah, glad to be here.
Whenever you get the chance, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm keen to find out how you go about getting the chance, and I guess keeping the chance when you actually get it as well. So that'll be incorporated into the discussion. And also with us today is Marcus.
You're also fast in introducing yourself. So I'm Marcus. I've been an SEO geek since pretty much the day SEO became a thing, and I've been speaking publicly about it since 1998. Over the years, I've been lucky enough to keynote in 18 countries with my signature Slidestorm presentation format, from the old school SES New York, SES San Jose, to SMX, TEDx, the web, whatever else, plus lots of corporate talks at Google, at Microsoft, at Meta. These days, I don't really speak at conferences anymore. I co-founded Write, which SEMrush acquired back in 2024. And just last week, Adobe officially closed its acquisition of SEMrush. So it's been an incredibly interesting ride. And I'm thrilled that our software will live on within the Adobe Experience Cloud. But honestly, the bigger reason I've stepped back is that there are so many great new voices out there, including, I would like to say, everybody else on this webinar. And I don't think the world needs to hear from me all over again. So what I love now is helping new and aspiring speakers tell their stories on stage. I've been on the advisory board for SMX Munich, for SMX Advanced for over 15 years. My wife actually has spent a decade as a conference organizer at Rising Media, so it runs in the family. And I also host my own event, the SEO Oktoberfest G50 Summit, which we started in 2008 and which is now considered the #1 SEO think tank in the world.
Amazing. Well, lots that our panel can share, can advise on, can help us with. So let's try and suck up everything that they've got. Should we go back to Sophie first? Sophie, I'm sorry, you started first. I thought it was best to go back to you there. How do you go about getting your first speaking gig? You must get so many people approaching you with regards to speaking at Brighton SEO. Is there a better way to be approached by someone to make it more likely for someone to actually get that speaking gig?
To me personally, as someone who is reviewing the pitches, I am, of course, looking out if someone has spoken before, but I think it's not a requirement, and we have a lot of first-time speakers. In terms of the ones that I see that are doing the best job of getting themselves out there, it is all down to that pitch and making sure that they're putting the right information in, putting their best foot forward. More than often, they have incredible insights and unique perspectives to share, but sometimes they struggle to be able to put that across in a pitch, and that is what we're looking at really, and that's what we're judging from. So that's my advice is don't rush that pitch. You know, if it takes you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to write, then it's absolutely worth it, because that's you promoting yourself in your talk.
Marcus is nodding away there as well, so it gives me an excuse to go to you second there, Marcus. What did you agree about, and maybe what did you disagree about?
Yeah, I think Sophia has a great point. I mean, the fastest way to get rejected is to send a pitch that could have been sent to any conference, right? A good pitch makes the organizer think you've actually been to the event, and a great one makes them think you understand it better than they did. Yeah. So I would say stop pitching, start publishing. Organizers don't discover speakers, they recruit the ones they've already been watching. So basically in 2026, your social feed is your speaker reel.
Okay, your social feed is your speaker reel. Is that what you said there, Marcus? Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm just absorbing that comment, and it seems deeper than it was.
It wasn't meant to be so deep. I'm like, really, but I think that's the reality right now. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
And I would just add that I would definitely agree with the point about making your pitch tailored to that conference. So we've definitely seen that, where you can tell immediately if a pitch is just a bog standard, generic pitch that's been sent to about 50 other conferences, and you can really tell when it's one that's been designed specifically for the event that you're recruiting for, because it really does take into account who that audience is, what perhaps sessions have been in the past on previous agendas, and matches the format and the style and the focus of talks. So if it's an event that's quite a broad event, maybe they want more high level generic talks. If it's a very specific event that's got a lot of talks on one topic, they want very focused talks on one specific angle. And if you can get that right, that's another way that I think you can really stand out and you'll be considered, because it's clear that you have done your research and you understand what you're pitching for.
I like that advice. So get the angle right. So if ideally, I guess, a prospective speaker can speak to someone like you, Gemma, then the question to ask is there any specific angle that I should include within my proposal in order to make it more likely that my application will be accepted?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can ask that question. Some conferences may have so many, may not be able to answer you, but I think many would if you ask that question. And also, just looking at what's been spoken about before, the kind of topics they've had, will give you a good sense of whether or not the angle you're going with is a good fit for that event. And different event, you might have one topic that you go in with one angle for one conference and you change it for another, and that ultimately is the same topic, but you're just positioning it differently to suit that audience and that event.
Is it worthwhile, Gemma, building a reputation on a particular topic and trying to actually be an expert on a very niche topic and attempting to actually speak at multiple conferences on that one topic?
I think different approaches can apply, but yes, I think that can work, because again, it's like Marcus says, your feed becomes your profile. If you are regularly talking about a similar topic and if you're sharing a lot of content on that immediately suggests that you have that experience and that you're going to be a good source of knowledge on that topic, which can be good. I don't necessarily think you have to have only one topic you speak about, and that's definitely not a prerequisite. For some speakers, they will have loads of topics, but I think it can definitely be an advantage to at least have things to back up why you're talking on that topic. That can help.
Adrijana, how did you go about getting your first speaking gig, and what are the tips that you can actually offer in relation to that?
Oh, it was so scary, it was my first experience. And what I did back then is I was actively looking for the events who are looking for the first time speakers. So, I wanted to go as lowest as possible, but be comfortable with me. And definitely for the speakers, we are constantly afraid that we are going to be rejected. And if it's a big conference, then we are thinking we are not good enough. So I would like to recommend for SEOs who are trying to find like these speaking gigs, there doesn't need to be a conference in the first place, because when we are trying to achieve like a big thing, then like our nervous system is stopping us to not do that. So even we can start with the small events, you know, like small local events, podcasts, like these kinds of things. We are having so many incredible SEO podcasts in the industry. So whatever is helping us to just like go step by step, that's perfect for us, because definitely all these speaking activities will come, you know, like for example, also Brighton was one of my first experience, because definitely they're very encouraging people for the first time speakers. So we are feeling like a safe to go with like these events first. And then when you are seeing that like that is not dangerous as we were thinking it is, then like someone will yell at us and like someone will eat us, then the next year we can go to and like engage with other conference organizers, asking questions. But definitely like what I'm seeing, the biggest kind of fear is fear of rejection, fear of that like we are going to embarrass ourselves, and then that is stopping us to do like any kind of action and like even like pitch itself. Or when we are doing the pitching, like from the state that like we are so nervous, we are thinking that we are not good enough, fear of rejection and embarrassment, we will just like do it like in the 15 minutes and just like send it. And like, of course, the rejection will come, because especially in the days where we are using AI tools, like for the creating like any kind of content, like we are, you know, like now we are not even like thinking by our brain, because we are thinking that just like these AI tools will do these pitches better than us. And of course, like these conference organizers in the third word, they can see if the pitch is made by ChatGPT or like these tools. So we really need to go a step back a little bit, leave the 1 hour, take a coffee, and then really find like what we are passionate about and what we can share with the audience. Definitely finding a unique voice is something that all these conference organizers looking for. So just allowing us to really share our perspectives. That's kind of like what I was experiencing with.
I think, Adrijana, you had a great point regarding the fear. And I think this is, I want to say this real quick. I think imposter syndrome is real. And I think we can all admit we have that imposter syndrome, right? Even after 30 years of doing SEO, I'm standing on stage and I'm like, oh my God, people will be like, that's bullshit, that's not true. You know, this happens to everyone, even the top speakers here, they all have the imposter syndrome. So if you're sitting at home and thinking, oh my God, I'm not good enough, and you know, I'm gonna do something and just they will rip it apart and boo me off stage, don't worry, you know, this is not happening. Everybody has the same feeling. You just have to cope with it. And I think Adrijana made some great points how to do this.
Yeah, if you are having imposter syndrome, welcome, because we are having the imposter syndrome as well, but we are just catching that thought that is a lie in the end of the day, and we are trying to pitch and trying to get. So it's about just like catching like all these thoughts and lies that are constantly circling back like in our head, and just like doing what we really want.
Something I always say to people that I really think is that everybody at that conference, you might get the odd person who likes to be a bit difficult or might be critical, but most people they're going to learn, they're going to, you know, get new ideas and hear from different people. They're not going to kind of watch people fail or hope that people don't do very well. Everybody in that audience is really willing you to do great. They're kind of appreciative that you're sharing your time and that you've put effort into a talk. So I've really very, very, very rarely, if ever, seen people have a bad experience. You know, it's usually a really positive experience of real support and real kind of appreciation for you putting that effort in. And many people in that audience will be thinking, I wouldn't get on the stage. So they'll really admire you for doing it as well. So really don't think people will be willing you to fail, because they just won't.
I think you just need to put the fear aside and just like go and do it anyway. Decide that you will do it. I want to share my story. Like pitching is not the way. I have got my conference calls a couple of times. In the beginning, I was just like attending conferences in Milan and Denmark because I wanted to learn. But then the opportunity comes and like people speakers drop off for one reason or another. And like at that time I was like trying to pitch but never got in. So then I saw like okay, people are dropping off, but like I have this talk. So then I just go speak to the speaker who can't make it, or go speak to the organizers. And like this way I got on stage with 3 hours notice in the beginning of my speaker career. So it's not only
sounds like a story that's worth expanding upon as well there. So you say 3 hours notice. Does that mean that someone didn't turn up and you just offered to take the place?
Well, first time it happened, it was in Marketing Business Summit in Milan. It was a 2-day conference. So like, yeah, after the first day, I was like still with the last guys at the bar having beer. And then just Arnold Hellemans actually, he was going to speak the next day as well, but he couldn't speak about his case because he did not ask permission from his client or something. So he just asked me at midnight, like, Katarina, do you want to speak tomorrow? And I was like, of course, like if I can speak with Arnold Hellemans, of course I say yes. Anyway, he like sent me his slides. We were like gonna do a co-talk, so speak together. So he sent me his slides, one of his old slides at midnight. And he said like, okay, look at my slides and decide which ones you want to speak about and which ones I will do then. So then I went back to bed and it was like 1:30. I started to look at his slides and I was like, no, I cannot speak about someone else's slides. But okay, I was totally scared. But yeah, so I went to bed. After 3 hours sleep as well, I met him at the breakfast and like, we tried to put it together. But we decided that he will put me on stage instead. And I just went to Brighton. So I had like slides. We just extended them together a couple of hours before. And that's how I got my third talk in Milan.
So tip number 1, spend a lot of time in the bar at SEO conferences.
That's how I got my fourth talk as well. Same way. So I don't know. But I think also like, talk to the organizers when you meet them at conferences and like, let them get to know you as well. Maybe you will get invited later.
I think that's
Marcus, you've got a really relatively unique conference. You know, it's a bit more bespoke, a bit more targeted, I guess, towards a certain type of SEO. So how do you encourage the right type of person to apply to you to be a speaker?
This is completely different. I mean, this is just 50 people, right? Obviously, this is a very closed group, and therefore there goes a lot of deliberation and screening of potential newbies for this format. But since it also has a very hefty price tag, obviously it's sometimes a hard pitch from our side, as when we want a speaker, but it's always hard to tell, as we call speakers experts. It's always hard to tell someone, hey, I would love to speak you to speak at our event, but you have to spend what it is this year, I think 6,500 euros to speak there. Obviously, it's a hard pitch, but we've been doing this for almost 20 years, and it has organically grown into what it is today. So there was no grand strategy behind it. So I'm just happy that it turned out this way. But let's not talk about the G50. I think Katarina just did a great point. The conference circuit looks like a big industry, but it's actually a very small village. And your reputation arrives before you do. And this is, I think, Katarina, what you just said. You are active in the bar, meeting with the conference organizers, talking with other speakers. This is what's happening, and this is what you need to do to really, work your way forward and get invited at more conferences. So although it sounds very exhausting, and me always almost being 50, I get like, my hairs get like up like this when I hear like until 2 o'clock in the bar. I don't know, I haven't been up until 2 o'clock for 15 years, maybe, I don't know. But this is the way to go. This is how you really, make contacts, make friends within this industry. It's really a small village, and then these opportunities arise, and you just grab the opportunity when it comes.
Right. Okay. So that's a good few tips on how to apply, how to be in the right place at the right time, and how to just grab the bull by the horns and just go for it. But what makes a good speech from a bad speech in terms of maybe slides, what to incorporate in slides, perhaps even things like body language, how someone talks, how they come across, what to incorporate in a speech as well. Could we get a few tips from everyone just in relation to that? Sophie, would you like to start off with that?
As someone who has just gone through 180 decks as part of our review process for our event last week, along with Carmen, I have a lot to say on this one, so I won't take the whole time. But I think it's really important to remember that your deck is what people are seeing. It's kind of like your chance to show off. Design-wise is always great. Everyone loves a sleek-looking design, but the content really needs to be there as well, and it needs to be clearly and concisely presented. It sounds like very basic things, but just making sure that your deck is the right font size, for example, that you've got high-quality images, because someone is looking at those and they are kind of judging you and what you're saying, but how you're presenting what you've got to say. So decks are really important. I would say spend your time on that. It doesn't have to have swooshing animations and fancy videos, but that content is really important. That's what you share after the event on, speaker deck. That's what people are reading when they go back to the office. So people are taking pictures of to reference to. So don't neglect your deck. I know it's a little bit boring. I know from experience it can take a long time, but it really pays to spend your time on those decks.
Gemma, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely on that. It definitely is true. And I think that this is common advice you'll hear, but not cluttering slides up with too much information. It's so tempting to say, I've got all this to say, and people need to be able to follow it and put on 45 bullet points, or, your amazing spreadsheet that's got so many, cells that no one can see it from looking at it. So really think through what needs to be on the slides, and only put, they should really be an aid for what you're saying. You want people to be focused on you and your words, not kind of reading ahead. So for example, don't put loads of bullet points on and talk about them one by one, because people will have read ahead and they'll be considering the last bullet point before you finish the first. One bullet point per slide, or stagger them in and really focus on what you're saying rather than what the slides are there for. So while they're important, you shouldn't pin everything on them. It's about what you're going to say, and they should support that. So I would definitely say that. And also really think about the first few minutes. That's some advice I've heard several times, and we've seen that applied. And I think it's really true. If you've got a really strong start, that really sets you up for the rest. So really work out how you're going to introduce yourself, or how you're going to start your talk. Are you going to tell a story? Are you going to set out what you're going to say? But really kind of feel confident in how you're going to start and open a few minutes. Once you get that going, the rest then flows, and that helps you feel more relaxed, I think. And that comes across to the audience that you're organized, you're practiced, and you're ready to go. And then they kind of sit up and listen.
Does the number of slides matter? Because Sophie, I've seen Greg Gifford at Brighton SEO share about 100 slides with all his movie anecdotes, and that's not necessarily best practice, but it's very effective for him.
Well, I can't say anything because my decks are usually about 100 slides for 20 minutes as well. But I think it's the style, right? So as Gemma was saying, my decks might just have a picture of my dog, for example. I'm clicking through them quite quickly. They're not necessarily there to read. I think it is, I would say when I'm judging decks, I'm not really looking for a set number. It is about how the content is presented. Again, nobody wants death by bullet points, like spreading it out into separate ones. And sometimes that can mean you end up having 80 slides for 20 minutes, but it's the way that you're presenting it, the way that it flows. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a set number, but yeah, I can't say anything. I think one of mine was 120 for 20 minutes. So there is no set number. It just needs to flow. And again, that clear and concise design so that people can read it and see what they need in the back.
And Adriana, what are your tips?
This is my signature style, slide storm. Also for me, like 40-minute keynote will have 450 slides, right? It's really a death by slide storm. And I think the most important thing, and also for normal presentations, practice, practice, practice. So I before talk, I spend 1 hour per 1 minute on stage, right? So if I'm on stage for 20 minutes, I will work 20 hours for the talk, right? Also just practicing it. And obviously for a 40-minute keynote, even more. And I think this is really, really, really important because it also shouldn't look practice. I think Gemma made some great points, right? You don't want to, like basically constrained by your own presentation, so to speak. So it needs to look like basically you're winging it, but there's no such thing as winging it. There's just preparation that looks like winging it. But this is so important that you're so well prepared. And I see a lot of the top conferences now also basically having speaker coaches alongside and basically telling their speakers that they can use the speaker coach to prepare them for their talk. And I think this is a very good thing for the conferences as well, to encourage people to speak more. And on the flip side, and I think Sophia, Gemma, you're gonna so acknowledge this. The worst thing is having a speaker who's on stage and it's like, oh, I made these slides on my flight back here. Right? This is like, okay, you're never coming back, because I mean, what are you saying, right? This is like the worst thing you could say at a conference.
And that stat that you came up with as well, Marcus, 1 hour for every 1 minute of content. Yeah. That seems quite intense. Would you say everyone does that, or is that something that you probably do more than most people?
Maybe I'm just freaked out the most. But for me, it's like I'm an introvert, right? Although people see me on stage and they're like, "What? How can this be?" But nevertheless, I'm a straight up an introvert. But through practice, I can achieve, actually enjoying being on stage, because if not, I'm just super frightened, going up on stage. And having that preparation, having that excessive preparation, basically is my safety net, that I know nothing can happen. I'm just one click away from my next slide and I'm in it again. So my problem was actually always that I basically went into a tunnel. So I started my speech and I basically woke up when people were clapping. And I'm like, so always on my first slide, I would write enjoy. That I would like, hey, be in the moment, and don't just, spin off your preparation. Also, I think that's very important. But again, it might just be me being super stressed out before I go on stage.
I would love to have 20 hours, like just practice time, but sometimes you don't have it. But my tips would be then like, at least practice the beginning, because I think the beginning is the most difficult one. But if I know this well, like if I know the 2-3 minutes, like I can speak actually without the slides, the 2 and 3 minutes, then I kind of have survived the beginning, and then the rest goes easier. Yeah.
Adriana.
My experience is a little bit different, because I definitely don't have this background that I'm reviewing the decks and talking with the speakers. I'm just becoming a public speaker, and that is something that I'm still developing. But during this process, I was always analyzing when I'm on the conference and when I'm listening other speakers, what I liked, what the audience is resonating with, and then I was kind of taking the best moments from the other great speakers, and I was analyzing, is that something that is resonating with me? And I always admire speakers who have great energy, who are making small jokes, who are animating the people, so audience people is not paying, dropping the attention, who is asking some questions, who are kind of being honest, who is engaging the audience, who is calling out the audience. So I really try. Once I was developing myself as a speaker, and still I do, I was trying to incorporate the great things that I'm seeing that are going very well on the other conferences, and then I'm finding my unique voice and combining like these kinds of things. So definitely I see the difference like between some people are great at technical things, especially in the SEO space, like they are great like technical experts, but they are not public speaker, or we have great public speakers, but they are not having the right expertise. So I'm constantly trying, because I'm coming from the SEO space, I'm coming from the technical perspective, but I'm constantly trying to develop like these speaking moments, how you are talking with the audience, when you know, after 10 minutes, the audience attention is going down, how you are recovering them, you know, like we really need to be as human as possible in these moments, because that is like what the audience will resonate, you know, like we really need to owning the stage, you know, like if something is happening in the corner, if someone is slapping the door, like we need to address that, because we need to address like these elephants in the rooms. That is how we are taking like distracted people from the audience to the stage, to the be with me, you know, like, so I'm constantly trying to develop that skill of owning the stage and owning the audience. And for example, I just had a talk like almost like around like 400 people came, you know, like, and I was constantly seeing, you know, like how they are handling, calling some friends, just like small jokes, just like, so people are seeing us as a real human, and they are, of course, like they're resonating with us because we're all humans in the end of the day. And like, especially on Brighton and other conferences, like we are coming there with the friends, our friends are clapping us, you know, like taking a picture. So it's so natural to, you know, like make some jokes. Oh, my friends are clapping, they are invoicing me now for this, or, you know, like small things that people will come give our the attention again to us, and doing like these small things every 5 minutes, because we know that we are so addicted to phones, like we are constantly on the phone, on the LinkedIn, you know, like, and even on these conferences, like, so these kinds of small analysis are really making us better and better speakers. And then in the end of the day, it's about the experience, constantly improving yourself, asking for a feedback. So that is kind of like the way that me as a speaker want to go, because, you know, like that is something that I really enjoy.
Okay.
Be just like,
it's good to react to something that's happening live. If someone slams a door, if some noise happens that you don't necessarily expect, acknowledge it, make a little joke out of it, ideally, if you only get 1 or 2 people clapping for you, saying thank you, my friends, for attending. So it's nice to have those little things up your sleeve. What happens if you're speaking after lunch and everyone starts to just get a little bit down and not very motivated, and I guess start to look at their phones? And is there a particular style of presentation that you can come up with that makes it more likely to actually regain the energy of the people in the room?
I had that experience basically on Thursday last week. I was talking after the lunch, and when I saw that I'm going to talk after the lunch, I was like, yeah, nobody is going to be there because people are enjoying sun, coffee, and like all these things. So basically that was my first sentence when I was on the stage addressing this thing. Hey, and I was like, basically in this sentence, like when I saw that my speak is going to be after the lunch, I was like, nobody's going to be here. Now, when I'm seeing you all, I'm so happy, and like everybody is going to be here. So addressing that elephant is really what is taking that attention again to yourself, and people are, oh, you know, like she's addressing, she's interested, you know, like I'm seeing so many speakers just like they are talking at the same level of the tone, like they're not even addressing us in the audience, you know, like we are real humans. We want to be visible. We want to be engaged with them. And they're just like coming, talking, going, and like nothing happened in the end. You know, we spent like 20 minutes, nothing happened. No one is being remembered, and like, that's it.
I think it's also really important.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gemma, you go first.
No, I was just going to say that I think it's really important to be confident on the stage as well. Like you saying about owning the stage, Adrijana. And I think it's really true that I think naturally as humans, our default is to go, oh, you know, I'm really nervous and I hope I'm not going to waste your time. And, you know, you're going to learn something from me, and almost kind of bill yourself as, you know, kind of almost justify that, oh, you might not, you know, I'm not sure I deserve to be here almost. I think it's really important that you don't do that, that you don't give the impression that, oh, I'm not really sure why I'm here, but actually go in confident, not arrogant, but confident and clear on why you're there, because that also makes people think, I've got, if you don't think you deserve to be there, then they're going to maybe be thinking, why should I listen? So I think it kind of almost feels natural as a self-defense mechanism, but I think it's really important not to do that, and to just be confident, to appreciate that if you're on that stage, it's because the organizers believe you should be. They're not going to give you a slot if they don't think you've got something to add to their conference. So you deserve to be there, and then you should kind of deliver that while you're on the stage as well.
Can I say one thing to Adriana again? The jokes. This is so important, because in the end, people want entertainment. They want to be entertained, right? I mean, like, obviously we love, oh my God, look at the juicy data, look at the technical shit, right? This is all awesome. But in the end, people want to be entertained. You're sitting in probably a dark conference room, for like a whole day. In the end, you just don't want to fall asleep. So all these jokes and everything, this is super important, to lighten up the mood. I'll always love when somebody would like go out of the room, and when I'm just talking, and I'm like, and I would just talk about, I don't know, like link buying. And he's like, oh, there's a guy who runs out to buy some links and stuff like this, right? This is such easy, right? Such easy things to play with these situations. And what I also did, and this is really awesome, I actually hired a writer from satire show, as like a comedy writer. I hired a comedy writer, which are surprisingly cheap, and I send them all basically the news reports I would like feed off of. So basically like core updates being announced, or Google doing this, Microsoft doing that. I would send him all the news articles, and he would send me back like 3-4 pages with jokes, with little jokes about these things. And I would pick like 3 or 4 of those, and they're like gold, right? Because like really a delightful, good joke or stuff like this, lightens up the atmosphere. Again, it also, when somebody's watching the phone, he looks up again, why are people laughing? And I immediately get him back with my hundreds of slides. This always worked really well. So just want to say, comedy authors are really cheap. And again, like spend $200, and you make some good jokes in your talk, which will be more well received. Maybe that's a good tip for someone.
But you're better off paying a comedy writer than using AI for that, Marcus, are you?
Oh, AI is not funny. It's easy. AI is not funny. And again, I mean, if you get paid a lot, why not, spend a little to make it better? I think that's perfectly reasonable.
That's something I have been experimenting as well, like making jokes and stuff. But I'm also a Finnish person, so the jokes doesn't come natural for me. So one time I was like trying to think of something, but didn't come up with something. But I still wanted to try something new when I was in Dublin. So I kind of did that with slides instead. So in the beginning, instead of just starting like normal, I threw off I put in a slide that's like completely unrelated to SEO, and I didn't have to say anything. I just showed the slide and people started to laugh, and then I got their attention, and then I could continue with the actual stuff. Yeah.
So, Sophie, you mentioned that you've just come from reviewing, 100 plus potential speaking applications. So obviously you're looking for things to jump out at you. What's something that people can add to their pitch to make them more saleable? I'm thinking about an offer to promote the event or the pitch a little bit more, to interact with organizers a little bit more. Is there something that someone can add to their offering that will make them more likely to be selected over someone else?
I think kind of what we were saying earlier about how you find in those opportunities, if you don't have to have been to every event that you want to pitch for, that would be impossible to do, but it does make a difference when someone has been to the event, is already familiar with it. They know what your audience are like, they're liking your post, they're engaging with them, they're seeing me at other events and dropping me a message and saying, oh, I'm pitching this weekend, look out for my pitch. There is those types of things which will help you to promote yourselves to the promoters of the event. But also there's usually a section, there is in ours, of like, tell us about yourself. Like, yes, your talk, your job title, everything is great, but if there's a section where you can tell the organizers what you're passionate about, why you want to speak, what are you bringing that is unique, that really stands out, because people buy from people, people listen to people, and that's what we're looking for as well. As everyone has been saying here, adding your personality in there. People want to know that. I know that I would stand out for me when I'm looking through hundreds of pictures coming through. Like, show me what you're interested in, what's your passion, what's your twist, what's your perspective. Bring your personality into your deck, into your pitch, into your social post, bring it into everything, because we want to see you.
That is so awesome. Can I share one more thing? You asked me before about the G50, which I shot down. But at the G50, you actually apply anonymous, right? Because it's not about fancy titles. It's not about fancy companies you work for. It's about you yourself among the other 50 people. So it's always anonymous, and everybody else votes on these anonymous applications. And this is exactly, Sophia, I love that point, because this is, in some instances, it's even more important than the, now I'm missing the word. English is hard. I'm sorry. I hope you get the point.
Absolutely. Loved enthusiasm as well. And that's something you can certainly bring to the table as well, Marcus. Gemma, can I get your thoughts, please, on something else that people can add to the pitch in order to actually make them stand head and shoulders above other applications that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think sometimes it is just really honing in on what the value is for the audience. So sometimes there's a lot of description about what they can say and all these things that they can talk about or what they've done, but actually, why is this an important topic? Why do you believe other people need to know this? Why will it help them? I think that sometimes if somebody can really articulate that and you can tell they've really thought about the audience, that helps. I agree with Sophie on, we ask, why do you want to speak at this event? And if you can explain why, because there are, we get that some people just want to speak and they're going to pitch a lot of events and things, that's fine. But if you can have a reason why you want to be at that event, and it's not being it's the best event I've ever heard about or anything like that, but just a reason why you think that event matches you, I think that can really help, because you think they really want to be there, they're going to be involved, they're going to be active in it, they're going to be engaged with the whole process, and that's important. If you really want to stand out, I've suggested to people before, why not do a little video pitch or something else that, just is different to what other people do, find a way to add something to your pitch that isn't just the words themselves, but that's not necessary every time. I think it's really about, again, going back to the core of why this event, why this topic, why you think it is going to be valuable. And that really is where we'll look at for a starting point.
Yeah, great tip though. A little video that can make the difference. Let's finish off by going around our panel and asking for an answer to one more question, and that is, what's something that will turn an event organizer off and make sure that that SEO speaker isn't invited back? I think Marcus, you talked about something like that earlier as well. So, what's something that an SEO speaker should definitely not do, either as part of their speech that they actually do, or perhaps after the speech, in order just to make a very bad impression? So we finished with that tip, and then just remind the listener who you are and where people can find you. So you're nodding away, Marcus. Would you like to start off with that one?
I don't know. I could say 100 things, but I think I've taken so much time already. So I would just say one sentence. A great talk gets you on stage, but being a great human gets you back on it. And I think that sums it up. So I'm Marcus. You can find me on mediadonis.net or LinkedIn. And if you don't find it, I don't deserve that you find me. I'm an SEO, so well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marcus, for coming on. Gemma, what are your thoughts on that last question?
So again, there's probably quite a few, but one I'd say is not respecting the time of your session. So if it's clear, you'll be very clearly told how long you've got for your session. Make sure that you do fit there or thereabouts within that. Any speaker that, is either really short or in more cases just goes hugely over time, that really can throw out the whole day. It's not very considerate for the rest of the other speakers or the audience. So that would automatically be a bit of a red flag. So really try and respect the time that you're given and make your talk fit within that time.
Absolutely brilliant tip. And hopefully I've respected the listeners and the panelists' time here, because we're at 42 minutes, 42 and a half minutes or something like that. And we're aiming for about 45. So we're getting there. Gemma, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on LinkedIn. I think Gemma Houghton, you should find me there. Or if you want to check out the conference, look for International Search Summit and you'll find our events coming up when you search for those.
Superb. Thanks so much for coming on. Sophie, what are your last thoughts?
To take feedback on board, I was guilty when I started speaking of being like, I know everything, my deck's perfect, I don't need to change anything. But if you are getting feedback on your deck or your presenting style, try and take it on board, because 99.99999% of the time it will make you a better speaker, and it comes from a good place. And yes, you can find me. I'm Sophie Logan on LinkedIn, and we are looking for new speakers for Brighton SEO and Measure Fest in October in the UK. So if you're listening to this and are like, I'm going to give it a go, then please get your pitch in.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Sophie. Katarina, what are your thoughts on something that an SEO speaker absolutely shouldn't do, and where can people find you?
My thought is, like, if you only go to the conference and like speak and then you like go home or disappear, like the organizers won't like that, because they want you to hang around there so the audience can also talk to you like between the talks. And so that would be my tip on that. And you can find me anywhere, but maybe LinkedIn is where I post quite often.
Wonderful. Well, LinkedIn, someone's just posted on LinkedIn. We're streaming live on LinkedIn as well. Thanks. So noted down a lot of great tips, and a lot of great tips just in that concluding questionnaire. Katarina, thank you so much for joining as well. Adriana, what's something that an SEO speaker shouldn't do?
I have no idea, since I'm not from the conference speaker like background, but me as a speaker, I'm always thinking, like these people who are organizing these things, they are also human, they are busy, it's crazy things. So I really think that like we need to try to help them, like, and really being like human as we would do like with our best friends. So I know in the end of the day, I think being human as more as possible, because we could be in that position there, and then we are expecting all these things. So
absolutely. We started off with Marcus saying that as well, and you're agreeing with that one, certainly. So great place to finish off with there. Adriana, where can people find you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the way to go to find me. I'm Adrijana Vujadin, and that's it.
That's it. I've been your host, David Bain, and you've been listening to the Majestic SEO Panel. If you want to join us live next time, sign up at majestic.com/webinars. And of course, check out SEOin2026.com as well. Bye-bye for now.